Hey, welcome back to the Shed Builds. Today I'm going to continue on stripping the bike here to get the frame out of the bike so I can get it powder coated, because that frame is just in a really bad state. It's not structurally bad, but the paint is just really gone, it's rusty. So I want to change that and make the bike look a bit nicer. I kind of have to choose, where am I? I kind of have to choose what I'm going to do. Am I going to just do small things and try and sell, well, basically the engine, the running engine, or do I take it a step further and just try and sell the entire bike? I think the easy way is to just try and sell the engine, and I don't know how quick that's going to go. And the more fun is part, of course, is to take the engine off, get the frame powder coated, looking nice, and then rebuild it with all the good stuff, paint a few bits and bobs, and then get a nice running bike and sell it for a bit more. But it's of course a lot more involved. But yeah, there's a few things that need to be done. I've got to take off quite a lot of stuff, so I'm almost there to kind of take the frame out. Let me know in the comments what you do in a situation like this. Again, this is something I just picked up by accident, I think, or just it came along. They're not as valuable as the CX500s for some reason. So these custom bikes, they do less, but I think if you're a starting driver, they just look a bit less big and they ride easy. So I think, especially in the summer, somebody might want to buy this. So I'm leaning towards stripping the bike. There's still a lot of stuff has to come off because it's so crusty and just worn. If you just look at this water pipe over here, that's just such an eyesore as well. My eyes! So I guess I'm gonna strip this bike, see if everything comes loose, all the bolts and especially the exhaust. See if we can get that off, and then see if we can get the frame at least stripped. That would be nice. The other thing I'm gonna do is the tank, and as you can see, the outside is really dirty and there is damage, or at least rust, but there's no dents or anything. No. And as you can see, there is rust there, but it's not too bad. So I think this will clean up pretty good. So I just quite quickly wiped off the tank, and there's a small dent here, very small. Other than that, it's pretty clean, but there is rust everywhere, so it will need a new paint job. Alright, so what I'm doing here is filling the tank with, well, in this case, nails, but you can use screws or whatever you've got. Fill it up with the screws and of course some vinegar, you see it on the left side, and then just shake it as best as you can. And that should really break off all the big chunks of rust. So just keep doing that as much as you can. I left it soaking also, so that helps. And after that, just drain it, get rid of it, and shake it. So after all that shaking, I cleaned it out and have to stop the acidity. And for that you can use sodium bicarbonate, so baking soda, and that should stop the acidity of the vinegar. So put that in, add some water, shake it around, and of course rinse that out real good. And then after that, the tank is done, and I line it with WD-40. Okay, so I went through my stockpile of things that I've been saving from all the bikes I've been disassembling and changing. So I got a few things for this GL500 bike that I got, one of which is a fairly good set of rear shocks. That is really crusty, and this is the one I still had. I've done nothing to it. This is how it came off the bike, and that looks a lot better, and it's the same size, so that on its own will make quite a difference already. I think these came from my CX500. They actually look pretty good. I never cleaned them, and I think if I clean them, they will work pretty good. So they are a lot better than the ones that are right on the bike right now. I've got a screen which looks a lot better than the one that's on the bike right now. So I'll swap that. This is a battery tray holder which I already prepped and cleaned, and I just need to paint it. The other one is like really rusty. I've got a really cool set of handlebars. We'll swap that over. I've got a couple of these headlight fixtures which are in really good state. So this is the side right now with those ugly blinkers, and this is my replacement, which I still had. So the difference is it's quite obvious. The ones on the bike are really bad, so I'm just going to take those off, dump those and switch them out with those. And they've got lights on them as well. Now these are really big. They came from a Goldwing, I think. But I've also got these. So these came off a CX500, so I can swap that. So those are some lights. I've also got these. These are really big ones. I do like these really big orange 1980s lights. I love those.
Ah, 80 cell phones.
At the front right now, modern things, they look awful. I've got a headlight as well. The one on the other bike is like completely rusted out, so I can swap this and this. I saved this fender or this mudguard for the front. This one looks really good. This one is going to be swapped out as well. The other one I did with the aluminum foil and stuff. It did improve it a lot, but it was so damaged. The chrome is like really crusty still. It just looks awful. So you need to strip that completely and repaint it. But I don't want to do that. I just want to swap this out. I think I'm going to need a new reservoir, which I've got. So I need to get a kit for this. And I needed a new lever, which I've got here. I can't really remember. I don't think they were like rear view mirrors on that thing. And I actually found this one that I still had. Don't know why I've got this actually, but I got it, so I'll probably just fix that on as well. So moral of the story is always keep your stuff. You never know when you're going to use it. And look at that stockpile. Otherwise that would have been thrown away, which would have been a shame. And now it's going back on the bike. Right, so the entire back is stripped already. That's pretty cool. This is a swing arm. Yes, I'm learning. Swing arm. As you can see, that it's in pretty bad state. So I want to get that powder coated for sure. I still have about 15 minutes before I need to get to my night shift.
The ambulance has crashed. The ambulance has crashed!
So I'm just gonna see if we can remove the airbox and the electrics on this side. And then I'll call it quits for tonight. And then we'll continue on tomorrow.
A few moments later.
So I think the time lapse stopped because of the battery, but as you can see, the airbox is out. The only way you can get the airbox out is by removing the rear wheel and taking out this bracket that sits over here. And that's basically the only way you can remove the airbox. So that's quite a big task to get a simple thing out, but you can't get it up or get it sideways. It just doesn't work and you'll break stuff. So if you plan to do that, then be prepared to dig in. But that's a big chunk off of the frame.
The next day.
Alright, so after a good night's sleep, time to take the exhaust off, and I want to take the entire system off in one go, because removing those back pipes, it's really hard work. So I wanted to keep the system intact as best as I could. And after some fiddling with the middle part, I actually got it down on the floor. And of course the swing arm isn't on it right now, so that helps. And after some fiddling, I was able to kind of wiggle it out and get the entire system off in one go. So that is one complete exhaust system removed. Let's have a look at the bottom. There's a hole there, something there, there's a hole there. Front end looks good. So there's a hole in the collector box here, and this needs welding up. Clean it up, and I think it'll work. Now the exhaust I'm gonna come back to later on in the video, but as you can see it needs quite a bit of work. But let's continue the job. And it's removing all the small pieces on the bike. Next job is the carbs that I put on. Remove those, undo the cables, and try wiggling it out. Took me a bit of time here, but in the end I got it. So you get handier at this. Next up is the starter motor, which is right on the bottom of the bike on the left side. You can kind of wiggle it out. Undo the cable, and that's one gone. Next are the coils, which are on top of the engine. It's like a little bracket you have to remove, and then that one's gone as well. Next up, part of the wiring loom. Undo all the connectors and remove the cables. And then we're nearly ready to start removing the engine from the bike. So I got this really cool lift, the blue thing underneath. I can really recommend getting one of those. They are really handy, especially with a bike like this. And you'll see it in a minute because it'll drop down. So I think I got all the bolts loose. I think the engine should be free, so I should be able to lower it now. There it goes. Cool. I do like this about the CX500, to drop the engine like this. So all I need to do is get the wiring loom from the engine, and also maybe you could give me a thumbs up or subscribe to my channel or support me via Patreon. That would be really much appreciated, and it helps funding these projects. So that's the last bit of the wiring done. Engine's free. Okay, so the engine is out, as you can see, it's right over here. I'm gonna get this on a table or a lift, I'm not really sure. But one thing I want to do, because I'm making so much progress right now, is free up the frame and free up these motor mounts. You can see these over here, so these things over here, free those up from the engine, so the radiator has to go for that. Get those out and get the frame off of the front fork, or the front fork of the frame, whichever way works, and get those blasted and powder coated, because basically then I can start rebuilding it. The engine is good, just need to replace a few bits and pieces. I think I might do the water seal, I've never done that before, so that'd be a cool thing to practice. And work on the engine as well, of course, because cosmetically it looks terrible, but it does run. That's the main thing. Now here are all the other parts in crates and stuff. I'm not really worried about any of this. This just needs a bit of cleaning and stuff. The only thing that needs to go to the powder coat as well is, of course, this swing arm. So that's really grumpy as well. As you can see, it's seen better days. So that's a bit of cleaning to do, power washing and sanding off. So I might do that myself somewhere. I'm not really sure I'm going to do that, or have it done. Don't know. Kind of depends on the price, I think. And we'll go from there. Okay, so I've just got the skeleton lift here. I've moved it inside. It's nice and warm here, because outside it's pretty cold. Worse.
It's cold outside.
Okay, so?
Engine has been removed, as you can see. So I've just got the front end and the frame left. So that's the last piece I'm gonna disassemble now. Alright, so I've got the frame disassembled now, as you can see. It's right over here. There is nothing left on it. Just the bolts that are in places where they need to be. As you can see, that frame is in a pretty bad state, but the good news is it's still hard, as they say, no pun intended.
That's what she said.
So it just needs to get all the rust off, get a new coat of paint, and then it's perfectly fine again. The front end is a bit different. There is rust here on these stanchions, so I'm kind of worried about those, but otherwise I'm gonna need new brake lines for these, and some new bearings probably. But other than that, the bike is completely stripped. There's a lot of stuff here, a lot of stuff that's really rusty, so I'm gonna get this powder coated as well, I think. There's this thing, of course. These are pretty hard to find, so these buckets, I'm not gonna dump this. I'm just gonna think about what I'm gonna do with this. Obviously it looks awful. This is the rim of the, well, that's gone. I've got a replacement one for that. So there is a lot of stuff to do, but it's basically doable, and I'm just gonna go forward, see if I can get this thing powder coated this week and start rebuilding everything and go from there. So I'm a couple of days in working on the bike. The frame is off to the powder coaters to get powder coated and sandblasted, or blasted first and then powder coated, of course. And meanwhile, I've been working on all these little bits and pieces, so I still got quite a bit to do. And the first thing I'm going to do now is take a look at the exhaust. So here's the exhaust. And as you can see, this is what it looked like, and this is how it looks when you put a wire brush to it. So it's actually not too bad, but I do have a hole here, so I want to weld a piece on here. This one has got a little bit of a rust going as well, but it's still closed. This one seems to be open somehow, so just gonna get the welder out and see what we can do. This needs a lot of cleaning still, so I'm still waiting on stuff for that. But let's get cracking with this exhaust.
"20 minutes later."
So I've closed up this gap, I've closed up that one, and I just need to finish up this one. But then it's all nice and closed up again, so good to go for a couple of years. And this is how the exhaust came out. I used a wire brush on the entire unit, actually, apart from the dampers. But as you can see, it came out pretty nice. Most of the rust is gone, and I'm just gonna treat it now with some paint, heat resistant paint, and it came out a lot better than I thought. Welding seems to hold up, so pretty happy with it. So while I'm painting, I'm gonna say that I'm gonna end the video here, and next video we'll continue working on the engine, the frame, and all the different bits and pieces, and getting everything prepped so I can put everything back together. Now, as the exhaust, it's looking really nice. It's going to dry up a little bit more gray like this, but it came out pretty good.